Welcome to another Tea Time show with me, Mark Tillison. Today's show is all about Google Signals in Google Analytics. Many of you would have been seeing the alert in Google Analytics to activate Google Signals, and you're probably wondering what that is. So today's show is really to explain what Google Signals is, all about cross-device tracking, where we can see these reports, what reports are enabled with Google Signals, what that means for our data in Google Analytics, how you go about activating Google Analytics, pretty simple, and finally just a note on some questions around Google Signals and GDPR and user privacy. Before we get into that, if you do have some questions about this topic, you're a bit stuck, do ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those for you. If you're stuck on another analytics issue, you can contact me via Twitter @Tillison, or again, mention that in the comments, and maybe next week's show will be to answer your question. If you enjoy this video, do give us a thumbs up, we really appreciate it, that'd be great. And if you do want more tips on how to use Google Analytics, make sure you subscribe right now. So, what is Google Signals? So we have an issue with Google Analytics historically, and even currently, even with this new Google Signals option, which is that users on the internet use multiple devices when they're visiting your website during their journey to a conversion, to buying something on your e-commerce store, or placing an inquiry or asking for information from your business through your website. So what's happened is someone's on a mobile device on a train somewhere and they're researching something and they come across your website, and then later that evening they get home and then they go back on another device, maybe a laptop, and then they come back to your website. So historically those two sessions would be completely separate, and you'd have two lots of user data, two lots of visitors technically, and that journey through Google Analytics would be fragmented. So what Google Signals is doing is, where users have opted in and said yes, they're okay with that option, Google is tying those sessions together much better than it was, to effectively give you one seamless journey for that user or those users. So what that means is we can better understand where users are jumping from one device to another device, cross-device effectively, to understand where they came from, how many times they're coming back before they finally convert, and that helps us understand better the value of those early interactions with your website. So maybe you're running Facebook ads campaigns and you want to give a bit more kind of credit to those visits in that overall journey. And in analytics at the moment, maybe that's not as accurate as it might be, but now with Google Signals, with better cross-device tracking, we'll be able to understand that a lot more. So let's have a look at some of the reports in Google Analytics that are enabled once we have activated Google Signals. So you'll see this cross-device section here. We can start looking at device overlap. So again, this hasn't been enabled for too long, but you'll start to see these coloured circles overlapping, so you can see where users are navigating and revisiting the site across multiple devices. We can again analyse the device path, so how many times people are jumping from one device to another, and we can also look at channels, again looking at cross-device. And then finally, we can get some more data about the acquisition device. So what was the first device that users interacted with our website from? And that could be critical for your marketing and advertising campaigns, as I said before, with something like Facebook or maybe your content marketing. We want to understand how users are first finding our brand, and maybe that's the spark that begins that journey that later they then interact and convert into maybe a sale if you're an e-commerce store, or an inquiry if you're doing lead generation. So finally, let's just talk about Google Signals and GDPR. Really, this isn't something that you particularly need to worry about. Google Analytics isn't collecting personal data on these users, so in fact it uses sampling quite a lot. So if you have 1,000 users to your website, Analytics is basically extrapolating from a smaller sample of those 1,000 users. It's not giving you every single bit of data about every single one of those users and every single one of those sessions. So you can't really identify a specific user particularly easily within Google Analytics, and you're not holding email addresses unless that user has given it to you. You're not holding personal information such as their name unless, again, that user has given that to you as part of their session. So you don't really need to worry about GDPR. If you have any questions, do ask in the comments, and I'll help you out. Remember to subscribe for more tips on Google Analytics.